Hello and welcome to Science Research Weekly, Season 4, Episode 24, Pre-Cambrian Scuttles. Get ready for cancer cell states, ADHD diagnosis difficulties, body profiles from Ediacaran trace fossils, LMMs for work you can do yourself, the May 2025 top 40 new CRAN packages, and a Google Research grant for Quantum Neuroscience. This episode covers materials from June 27th to July 3rd. Let's get started with some research articles. First up, AAnet resolves a continuum of spatially located cell states to unveil intratumoral heterogeneity. So researchers use this AAnet, so archetypical analysis network. It's a neural network that learns archetypical states within a phenotype continuum in single cell data. And they can use it to distinguish cell states in cancer tumors. So cell states include things like proliferative state, oxidative, hypoxic, cell damage/death, and immune stimulatory states. And then they can map it all either separately or all together, color coding it. Next up, diagnosing ADHD in adults and in randomized controlled studies, a scoping review. This is out of European Psychiatry. So in a scoping review of 292 randomized controlled trials of ADHD diagnosed in adults, showed there was actually no diagnostic consensus, and only a third of the studies actually had an ADHD diagnosis using a psychiatrist/psychologist. So if you're a little skeptical of the broad swathing diagnosing of ADHD, like I am, this study certainly doesn't douse that flame of suspicion. In fact, it adds a little more fuel on the fire. Shifting gears here, we have the next article, Quantitative Decoding of Ediacaran Locomotory Trace Fossil Morphologies, Evidence from the Emergence of Slender Anterior-Posterior Body Profiles. So, using trace fossils of animal tracks from the Ediacaran, so that's the period before the Cambrian, researchers found evidence of more complex body structures like the aforementioned slender anterior-posterior body axes, including also things like, it seems like the trace fossils, them moving around, showed evidence of more robust nerve muscle systems, more rigid bodies, to actually make such tracks. This actually suggests something quite profound, that the complexity of life found from the Cambrian explosion may have actually been developing millions of years earlier. That using these trace fossils, we can kind of bridge the gap between the Ediacaran and the Cambrian. All right, turning now to our final article of the day. Size-Insensitive vapor diffusion enabled by additive freezing printed aerogels for scalable desalination. So researchers were able to create these freeze-printed hierarchical porous aerogels for use in photothermal evaporation. So that's essentially using like sunlight, using the sun to evaporate as part of a desalination setup. And what's more, I think what's particularly helpful is compared to conventional evaporators, which have this large efficiency losses when scaled up, so it's hard to scale these things higher, this aerogel could be scaled up quite nicely with minimal reduction in efficiency. It looks like energy efficiency over 80% and then less than 5% reduction when scaling up. So kind of a game changer when it comes to implementing these evaporators. All right, with that, let's turn to some research tools. 3 new R bloggers post. First, from Economics and Free Software, with a post entitled, "You can outsource the grunt work to an LMM, not expertise." So this is an insight that you can use a large language model modeling for programming, but it only really works if you ask it to do things you could do yourself, but maybe don't have time. So 3 points here. You can ask them to do it yourself because you can know exactly what you want or need and thus describe it very exactly. And you can know if the LLM is actually delivering the output you want, the quality of it. And if the LLM suggests something you hadn't thought about, you can know if that actually makes sense enough that's within the realms of reality. So that's important to think about. LMM does not replace expertise. All right, next. post from our works, the May 2025 top 40 new CRAN packages. A lot of interesting things here. Of note for me there was the cardio data sets, also neuro data sets, diverse collection of data sets based on those medical points. There was, let's see here, Dymo provided helper functions to facilitate analysis of genomic annotations. There was CRAM-R, implementing CRAM, a general approach to simultaneous learning and evaluation using generic machine learning algorithm. And then finally, under visualization, there's a bevy of them, including GG hex size, expanding ggplot to create heat maps with a size aesthetic to vary hexagon size. There was the GG pedigree, providing plotting functions for visualizing pedigrees. And then GG tree bar, expanding ggplot2 with genomes analogs to GeneCol and GeneBar for tree maps nested within each bar segment. And then our bloggers post from Boyd Tarlinton. Beyond the basics, books to supercharge your R skills. So ways to scale up your R, and these are in fact free books. There's Advanced R, the R Inferno, R Packages, Building Reproducible Analytics Pipelines with R, or RAPs with R, and finally, Engineering Production Grade Shiny Apps. Over on the CRAN release side, there are two new CRAN packages that you might be interested in. There's Autograph, Automatic Plotting of Many Graphs, and GEMR, General Effects Modeling. Closing out our time here, we have 3 grants under research funding. First of all, from the Department of Defense, the Air Force Fiscal Year 2026 Young Investigator Program, or the YIP. It intends to support individuals early in career scientists, or individual early in career scientists and engineers with a PhD or equivalent. I think the cutoff is April 2018. And this is for exceptional ability and promise for conducting basic research. Next, there's NASA's Innovative Advanced Concepts. So NIAC, Phase 1, soliciting proposals to study visionary yet credible advanced concepts for NASA under the goal of change the possible in aerospace and aeronautics missions. And then the third one, kind of out of left field here, is actually from Google Research, which I didn't know existed until now. And it's their Quantum Neuroscience grant. This is for research projects on how quantum effects may play a role in biology and brain function in particular. Bonfire of the Skeptics, thanks for joining me for Science Research Weekly. Science on.